Hello there, and welcome to another edition of The Best of Pedalshift. On this edition, we go all the way back to episode number 044 for a bit of fun. This was a special crossover episode with the folks from the Sprocket podcast. It was the very first time we ever created a music playlist. This edition, it was a bicycle touring themed playlist. Things like best songs to bomb down a hill with, best songs to come home to. You can check out the playlist over on Spotify, and you can also see the breakdown because this is a supersized show, an hour and a half long. You're welcome, or I'm sorry. You can check that all out at pedalshift.net/044. And I have to say, it was really fun to revisit it again. Hope you enjoy. This is a fun episode. It's a long one. It's a megapod, as I'll call it. And it is featuring two guys that you probably have heard from before, and that is Broctitus and Aaron Flores from the Sprocket podcast. I was in Portland this past week, the land of sunshine and bunnies, for those of you who know that of my proclivity for loving this city. And it was a really great time. Got a chance to visit family, got a chance to visit friends, and of course do a show with these guys. And if you haven't had a chance, go check out the most recent version of the Sprocket podcast. I believe it was episode number 286, and give that a listen. We talked about all sorts of cool things. And on this episode of the Pedalshift project, we spent about an hour and a half talking about music and bike touring. And we did something special too. We built a playlist on Spotify that's basically a nice little eclectic mix of our three musical tastes and favorite songs in a variety of different categories. You can check that out on Spotify. If you are a Spotify user, you can just search for Pedalshift Sprocket Project. That's the name of the playlist. Or you can go to the show notes at pedalshift.net/044. There will be an embedded player and a link to it as well. It's free. You can play it on your computer and on your devices and whatnot. And we really kind of had a good time pulling all this together. As I said, it's kind of a mega-sized pod, so I would say the first 45 minutes or so are us talking about our own musical tastes. If that doesn't kind of turn your crank, then I would say fast forward a little bit until we start talking about specifically what that means for bike touring, and that was about midway through the show, and then we started building the playlist song by song in a variety of different categories, including songs for the morning, songs for long stretches, songs for climbs. We did a little sidebar on whether people are cool with earbuds or not while riding. And we talked about songs for bombing down hills, songs for transitioning and returning home. And then we did a wild card where each of us had a category of our own that we added to the end of the playlist. So check it all out. It was really great. It's always a fun time to meet up with these guys. And yes, I have visual confirmation that they are indeed two separate people. All right, I'm here in the land of sunshine and bunnies, although the sunshine has gone away. I hope all of you got a chance to listen to this week's episode of the Sprocket podcast, because that is part one of our now, I feel like it's semi-annual crossover episodes.
Yeah, as many times as possible.
Many times as possible. I've got Broctitus here. Hello, Brock.
Hi.
And Aaron Flores.
How's it going?
Good Lord. Yes, they are two separate individuals.
we know it for sure now.
Yep.
So please go listen to the most recent episode of the Sprocket podcast. Do we know what number that is?
280 or 285.
Listen to everything.
286,
Listen to every show in the 280s
286.
because it's very important that you listen to the show.
I mean, they're all there. You could listen to every single one.
Yes.
Plus A's, B's, and X's.
Oh, of course. Oh, A's and B's. Oh, yes, yes. The bonus episodes are almost always the best.
We're a cataloger's nightmare.
Oh, man.
Seriously.
Because there's so if we do an extra episode, generally we'll do like a ABC, but that's not always the case. Like if we're pretty sure this is our only extra episode, or if we've pulled like tape in quotes,
yes.
from an episode, like outtakes or whatever,
Skeuomorphic
that usually gets an X. But again, not always the case.
Depends on how long it is. Usually if it's like an outtake, it's an X. If it's like, hey, we kept on talking, so it sounds more like a B or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
I'm seriously shocked you guys have an actual system that can be described.
But it's not.
This is amazing.
It's not. It's the thing.
It's not a codified system.
This is amazing. Well, as I probably talked about in the introduction, this is an all-music episode of the Sprocket podcast.
Yes.
Not that we're going to be playing a lot of music or anything
Of
like
the
this.
Pedalshift project.
Oh, Jesus. Did I just do that? My bad.
You know what?
It's the all-clipping episode of the Pedalshift project.
I think we're gonna merge someday.
That's
Sprocket
payback
Podcast East
right
and
there.
West or
Well,
whatever.
it's funny because on Instagram, before I went to the Beermongers on Southeast Division in 12.
Oh, yeah.
Which you
Where?
can always find a seat at, I understand.
Yes.
I actually put out an image of the Beermonger sign and said it's the hashtag crossover episode, hashtag, what did I call it? The Sprocket Project or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
there we
love
go.
that. So we're going to be talking about music on this episode. We're going to be talking about the role of music in bicycle touring because I've got two expert bicycle tourists here with me.
That's right.
At
We
least
know
I don't
everything.
if I-
We will tell
I can't
everything.
say-
Everybody
I'm an expert.
out here, if you're a bicycle touring pro, then you know that you're here in this room. So I've got, we're going to be talking about sort of just generally how music fits within touring because I know it means a lot for me. Music isn't a universal thing. Everybody's got different tastes, and I thought it would be really cool to get an eclectic thing going on. We're also going to be creating a Spotify playlist. You're going to be able to find that Spotify playlist in the show notes, and that's going to be at pedalshift.net/044. So check that out. And I am very excited because I think it's going to be an awesome playlist. So we're going to be talking about that.
Yeah.
Before we get into that, however,
It'll be eclectic.
it'll be eclectic and awesome and bikey, or with a lot of Dandy Warhols because Brock and I are both in the room.
Seriously.
and it's probably going to have a lot of punk music because Aaron and I have a funny feeling are kind of into some of that too. So, or at least I'm into sort of the quasi-punk. I'm into sort of like the proto-punk, the like post-punk stuff. So it'll be interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay. So what I wanted to do first is I wanted to get an idea and set the tone for the listeners. I wanted to ask both of you first, and I'll also answer the same question. What is sort of your general music taste? And then the follow-up to all of that is we'll go around again and asking about sort of how do you view music fitting into your rides? Maybe I know you guys use bicycling as transportation a lot, but I'm also thinking specifically within a touring context because I do think that that's very different.
Yep.
So, Brock, we're going to start with you since you're to my left.
Okay.
How would you describe your musical taste and maybe the genre of music or genres of music that you like?
I would like to think that I support every underground artist, and I'm super hip. And I know the newest stuff before anybody else does.
Taylor
but the
Swift.
reality
You would
is,
like to think.
I would like to
Taylor
think.
Swift.
But the
and-
reality is that I really like stuff that's kind of designed for radio. Like I'm a big fan of like catchy choruses and hooky, sounds, and I don't like pop music per se, but anything I listen to probably would be called pop before anything else.
Interesting.
If it's rock, it's pop rock. If it's punk, it's pop punk. I don't know. It's like I like. I don't know, I like-
Examples.
So I think maybe a good example would be, have you ever heard of the group Tinted Windows?
I have heard, but I'm not sure if I'm familiar with any of their
Tinted
songs.
Windows is the group, super group, if you will, composed of the Middle Hansen kid
Oh no!
on
Really?
lead vocals, the
That's amazing.
guitarist from Smashing Pumpkins, the bassist from Fountains
Wait,
of Wayne.
James Eha?
I think so.
The guitarist
really?
from Fountains of Wayne. Oh, awesome.
The bassist from Fountains of Wayne,
wait,
who
okay.
was also their principal songwriter, I think, and then the drummer from Cheap Trick.
Okay, so the guy from Fountains of Wayne was also with Ivy, if I'm not mistaken.
Sounds right.
Yes, one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
Oh, crossover, cool.
So that's kind of like that whole mishmash. Like I think that probably kind of skews pretty well across my musical taste. It's like anyone who's been involved in something that was aspiring to radio. That's kind of like
Interesting.
my wheelhouse as far as music is concerned.
Bop.
So there are outliers, and that was a fantastic song. Like
It was a
Really-
I will give it up. It was a well-constructed song.
commercially,
It
yeah.
was, yes.
What were
it
the words
served
after
purpose.
bop? It was bop.
Bop bop
Boop,
bop
boop, boop, boop,
doobie
bop.
doo wop bop
Oh, okay.
bop bop ooh.
I'm
I
learning.
think so.
This is an educational
Right. So
version.
I mean, I'm a fan of classic. Like I don't know if there's a triangulation or a quadrangulation of my tastes, but there's this little band out of Cincinnati called Bad Veins. I'm a big fan of, kind of like a underground or indie pop sort of thing. The Cars from classic
yes.
rock.
Yes.
Great music, largely for low voice, which meant that I could sing it when I was a kid.
Except for Drive, which was sung by the guy
The
who
bassist,
passed
yeah.
away
Robert
a few
Orr.
years ago. Yeah.
Robert Orr?
Yes.
Mr. Orr, the bassist. Yeah.
Great
which the new Cars album from 2011 was dedicated to him, I think.
And I saw them on tour for that.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh.
And they were great, but it was interesting because Okasik did not say a word. Like, it was just
Really?
sort of like, they just came out, played the music, and then went away. It wasn't even like,
Yeah.
hello, everybody, I'm Rick Okasik. Thanks
Right.
for coming. It was like, okay, just they started playing. And they did not play Drive.
Yeah.
'Cause-
And, well, who could?
They couldn't.
Yeah. And by all accounts, he just hates touring. Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
He loves making music, which I feel like is kind of the kind of musician I would be if I was a commercial musician.
Yeah.
Like, love making
you
the music.
and I would be opposite musicians.
Probably. I mean, conceptually, I love touring, but like in reality, it takes a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And you're burning a ton of fuel. So,
Well, there is that.
yeah. So there's that. Bad Veins, the Cars. Eve 6 was kind of the typification of like everything that's quintessentially like a 15-year-old boy. Like just like the energy, the kind of like quasi or faux punk element, and like really hooky type stuff. So there's that, and then the Dandy Warhols, which were like the kind of the low voice for indie and underground alternative back in the 90s. So that's kind of like the 4 points of my musical. Like those are the things I like best, but outside of that, anything that's hooky and poppy and like, you know, kind of sticks with you. That's kind of how I describe my musical taste.
So like underground with a pop hook.
Yeah.
I like that.
So if like overexposure, for example, Smash Mouth, which I'm a big fan of on statistically, All Star is a great song that was played to death. Like, it's just
What was the other Man on the Moon? No, something.
Walking on the Sun.
Walking on the Sun.
Right.
Oh, I remember that one.
And then a few more that were not. Then the Morning Comes. So they had this fantastic like retro packaging, but they were just examples of something that's been played to death, so that no one likes it anymore. And generally, so I like Smash Mouth unabashedly, and I won't apologize for it.
Unabashedly and unapologetically, yes.
Also, I realize that they're kind of lame, but there's also this thing of like if it gets too popular, I am not allowed to like it. So that's kind of that's my limitations when it comes to musical.
Do you abandon bands when they become too popular?
I try not to, but at some points I'm forced to.
But not Smash Mouth, man. You rode them to hell and back.
Their early catalog, yes.
The early catalog of Smash Mouth. You're
Right.
like,
They, by the way, did a fantastic cover of "Don't You Forget About Me" from Simple Minds.
oh, trivia, my
Yeah.
favorite song of all time.
Is that right?
Yes, it is. Number one.
Because
on
that's
the
the
list.
pose that Aaron Flores makes every time he's leaving somewhere.
Which is interesting because
Fist
that
up in
is
the
not my first style of genre of music, as we will discover. But that is my favorite song.
Here's
of
the
all time.
thing about that pose,
Yeah.
though. I don't know if you've ever noticed this in that movie. So he doesn't do
For the
like,
record, The Breakfast Club.
yes.
Yes.
He doesn't do like the fist in the air. Because and this here's where we go from practical or actual to theoretical. So he doesn't do the fist in the air. That is actually happening.
Yeah.
He doesn't do like the full on fist in the air. He does this sort of like curve, like almost a muscle.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like the
like an upper hook.
The
sort
face,
of thing. Yeah,
the like sort of the face of the fist.
Okay.
You know where the fingers are like over to the side.
If the fist was like a sock puppet.
Right.
Yeah.
So my theory is because if you do this, which is kind of mostly what I
Straight
do as
up.
I'm leaving, it's a little too close to the Black Power fist.
Okay.
And either John Hughes was wise and like doesn't want a white dude doing the Black Power fist, or
in 1986.
Yeah, in '86,
right.
or maybe Hollywood is like, well, you know, if we do that, then
Let's do that take one more time, but like a little more of a curve.
We're going to need to do a reshoot.
That's a little. That's
can we get Judd back? Can we
a little less militant?
Can we make it a little more of a hook? Thanks.
I don't
That'd
know.
be great.
So that's just my theory, but
Hooks for pop music, yeah.
Yes. Aaron, since
that's a good almost Lorne.
that was my Lorne
thing.
Michaels. Yes,
Yeah,
thank
okay.
you. Thank you. I'm glad you recognized it. Yes. Great shoe, everyone. Although I think I'm doing the interpretation of the interpretation of the interpretation of the Lorne Michaels. I've heard so many of the former SNL people do
Yeah.
their Lorne
Lorne.
Michaels.
Right.
Like I just am mashing all of them
So
up.
you're doing Mark Maron's Lorne Michaels.
Actually, the Marin interview with Lorne Michaels was
fantastic, yeah.
amazing.
I'm afraid to listen to it.
Oh, you must.
So why the fuck didn't you have me on your show?
Exactly.
It's funny because, like, I think that Marin finally, for those of you who don't listen to the WTF podcast, Mark
You
Maron, first of all, Mark Maron has it's a very interesting podcast. I listen, I kind of pick and choose with him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting or interesting, and we've talked about that on the Sprocket podcast number 286. And why I was right. Anyways, so the interesting thing about him is that he has a real history, and for the length of the entire show, he's been sort of grappling with this whole thing about not getting on SNL, and he finally gets an interview with Lorne Michaels, who is the founder and the creative influence of and the executive director of all of it basically,
And Guru
and everything, and
of like any kind of popular skit comedy. He was also producing Kids in the Hall.
Yes. Oh God. Yes. So I was watching. I have a long story with that. That'll be a B episode.
right.
B episode,
All right.
man. I
We'll
love
get
Kids
back
in the
to
Hall,
it.
man.
Put a pin.
Aaron, I offered the same question to you. Tell me and tell the Pedalshift Project listeners, what would you consider? How would you describe your musical taste and your musical influences?
Sure. I mean,
you have a banjo too.
I do. I own and play a banjo.
We're
and
so going to try to get him to play this. People.
You see, I've got this Detroit Blues Society sticker on there. I
So
was part
dope.
of the
I love
Detroit
it.
Blues Society.
Were you?
Yes, I played
still don't know
banjo
this.
for a blues band.
I still don't know this until right now.
I'm like an onion, man.
You are. Layers. Like a parfait.
No, an onion.
In the C block, we'll have a banjo performance by.
But for the most part, and here's the thing is like, yeah, so I own and play banjo, and I've played in a blues band. I'm not a huge blues. I like blues, but I can't say like I love the blues or anything.
Steve Vai.
Zeppelin. You're a Zeppelin guy, I can tell.
Right. I love the blues. I love Zeppelin.
I like the original
but-
blues by Led Zeppelin.
Yeah. You ready for some traditional Delta blues by Robert Plant and Jimmy Page? We're way off track here.
No,
yeah,
we're
so
right on
it's,
track, trust me.
My tastes kind of vary a lot, but I would say where my sort of musical home is kind of with the kind of the punk experimental crowd. I've always said like my three favorite bands are Fugazi, the Ramones, and Sonic Youth.
Oh, nice.
And and so that sort of encapsulates sort of the punk rock side, and it still has like some of the pop sensibilities of the Ramones. And when I was growing up and I was in bands, like I still structured a lot of my songs with the like verse chorus, format. But for the most part, what interests me are like the things kind of like outside of the norm, the dissonances of Fugazi, and then like the completely whacked out experimental stuff of Sonic Youth. Mm-hmm. That said, I probably don't listen to them as much as I used to. But I would still say like that is where my home is. If there's like maybe one or two bands that I listen to the most these days, it would be like Sleater Kinney and the Constantines out of Vancouver, BC. Yeah, and
it's interesting having a discussion like this. It's like you can see the arc of
sort of evolution.
Yes.
Well, and
for both of you.
Here's something I found out,
and that's a
this
typical experience. I
This
think,
is
for a lot
maybe
of
kind of
people. Yeah.
answering your second question that you're about to ask here. Is I can't listen to anything like anything like Fugazi for very long on a long tour. Mm-hmm. I would say it's great commuting music, but when it comes to like touring, I need something, for lack of a better term, more like shoegazer-esque. My Bloody Valentine's great. Constantine's
Oh, right.
There's the reference.
blends the elements of the shoegazer with sort of the pop and the punk sensibilities as well. And like Sleater Kinney, still has like that real punk home. But what I thought was for the longest time their last album, it's actually their second to the last album, The Woods, has like some of that whacked out experimental stuff still that like keeps me interested, but doesn't like burn you out. Like that's one thing I found out. Like listening to a lot of like really hard beat music on a long tour can really tend to burn me out.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
I've gone back into my catalog and like pulled out some of the more like soulful stuff, like Gil Scott-Heron.
Oh yeah.
Some John Coltrane. Things like that.
Blue Train.
Yeah.
That's my
stuff,
yeah.
And things that would like keep me interested, but it doesn't like kind of beat me over the head. Like Prince is actually really good to tour with.
Really?
I'll be honest. Yeah, you
Really?
should try it sometime.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I could see that happening, but I wouldn't have thought that from you.
The Musicology album is really, really awesome.
Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen.
Yep.
Not bad.
Yep.
Sure.
Not bad
Yep.
for touring.
for Americana.
Mellencamp. John
Yeah.
Mellencamp is another one that
Right.
sort of fits in
Really?
that.
Heartland
yeah.
music, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, there, I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. I said interesting.
There we go.
There we go.
It came out naturally, so now we
Nice.
know.
Nice.
Those of you who listen to
For those
the
of you who are
Sprocket
on
podcast.
Team 3 Syllables, I still love you more.
So wait, before we go on, no discussion of music with Aaron Flores is complete without asking whether or not recorded music is even a thing.
Fuck recorded music.
So you're exclusively alive.
Well, I mean, you know, I've got an iPod
takes John
and I
Coltrane
listen.
with him.
yeah, exactly. And right, his corpse.
I travel very heavy. I bring an entire live band with me in a trailer.
Play for me, you corpse. Play. No. Yeah, so I obviously I listened
apologies to the friends and family of John Coltrane.
That's
Jesus
true.
Christ.
This got really bad. I'm sorry.
This got dark in a hurry.
Yeah, so I listen to music. I listen to recorded music, but honestly, it is not the end all be all.
Right.
To me, music is an experience. It should be experienced live. Like
Right. And
there
there was
are-
a book you
I
read
mean,
that was informative, right?
Do you think less
Yeah.
of bands that are
exclusively recorded music
or
bands?
worse? I've heard a lot of bands, and I could name them, but I won't. That do really nice albums, but frankly, live.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
the worst, the biggest
Definitely.
disappointment.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think
If you can't play the instruments that are on your albums, like even if you need to hire like other musicians to tour with, that's cool. But if
Yeah.
you can't play like the music that's on your album, and I'm not saying like your album, but just to play
or
it.
do a close approximation.
Right.
If you can't make
Right.
that,
Right.
then there's something wrong.
I mean, then there's the example I'm going to pull out one of your favorite bands, the Eels.
Oh, I was
for
just about to
example.
mention Eels.
Like,
yeah.
his live shows are starkly different from
Yeah.
each other, and like,
Biggest
if you
live
can
show
listen-
disappointment of my life.
oh my God.
Because I love his rich
you're
orchestration.
Wrong.
Oh,
You're
I have-
wrong.
I have another-
You're incorrect.
I have a worst Eels show story as well. If
Yeah?
you'd like to share.
But
Yes.
well, that's the thing is like so Novocaine for the Soul like became this big hit.
Right.
Yeah.
But
Jesus
the way
and
it
his
is-
lawyer are coming back.
The way it's recorded, I doubt he ever plays it that way because all of his shows are sort of like a fingerprint. You know, they're all very different from each other.
Yeah.
And this sort of proves my point is like you go and you experience the thing that is yours to have.
Yeah.
And that is something that could never happen again. And for the most part, that's kind of the way it always is with live music.
Right.
Yeah. I love live music, and it's interesting because and it is interesting, by the way. I find that my tastes have changed over the years. Like I think we live in a state now of music where autotune is such a thing,
Right.
and so much electronic stuff is happening that in some ways it's easier to make those sounds happen in a live environment, but it's not the same because you're not physically making that sound and the songs of my youth, and all
Right.
of that. So it is a little bit different, but I still agree, when you go to a good live show and it's a band that can, or an act that can really bring it,
They sell it.
there's nothing better than that.
When this is like pushing 10 years now.
Oh my God, that's so old.
When I saw
You know the
Wilco-
references I'm going to start making in a
Right.
couple minutes?
When I saw
Jeez.
Wilco for the first time,
Okay.
this was back when crap, I can't remember his name now.
Lead singer?
Their original
Mr.
No,
Wilco?
their original guitarist who's
Pete Wilco?
now dead.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
never mind.
I can't remember his name now. But anyways, when he was still part of the band and touring with them, like he switched instruments a lot. He was like their multi-instrumentalist person. Their music, again, it was like an approximation of what it was on the album, but it was an experience unto itself.
Right.
And that was cool. Fast forward to a few more years later, and I see them, and their sound has changed drastically. They are using like more electronics and stuff in their sound at this point in their history. And there's like laptops on the stage.
Yeah.
And there's like a dude who's like his job is to like, push the button for the laptop. And I gotta say, I lost a little bit of respect for that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back when, yeah.
However, there was still the element of, I don't know, for lack of a better term, surprise, because things didn't always work out.
Sure.
Like things didn't always queue up the way they were supposed to. And you see the band kind of like having to improvise or like make up for those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. And it's interesting because, the computer is a new instrument, just like
Right.
people
And-
just on guitars probably a long
Or
time ago.
synthesizers,
Or synths
yeah.
back in the 80s.
Or electric guitars.
Yeah. Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
At the Newport Festival, yeah.
Yes, exactly. When Dylan went electric, he
Oh,
lost a
right.
lot of fans.
It was
yeah.
like traitorous to some. Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Thank you. We spent a lot of time setting the table on that, and I'll talk about my
Yes.
musical influences
Please.
as well, just because I think that this gives people who are listening a little bit of context. So hopefully everybody's stuck with us. And
What does Tim Mooney like?
What does Tim Mooney like? Okay, I would say that I'm eclectic, but with a strong sense of indie music and a strong sense of punk with a pop hook, which is very similar to what I
Dude,
think.
we are a triangle.
Yeah, we really triangulate this music a little bit. I'll explain my musical history. I grew up in Western New York, which is the cornerstone, like gripping on the canyon walls, about ready to fall down to the altar of classic rock. Like what I grew up on was, and if you're from the Rochester area, WCMF 96.5 in Rochester. It is the last bastion of classic rock. They played the same effing songs.
As they did back in the day.
Yes, like I go back to Rochester where my folks still live, and I'll when if I actually do turn on the radio, which is rare these days. I turn it on, and I'm hearing Blue Oyster Cult, I'm Burning for You. I swear to God, within 3 songs.
Yeah.
and
It's
that's great.
still, like, hot.
and it's a great song.
Yeah.
But and then maybe I'll hear Kashmir by Zeppelin or something like that. But it's the same playlist over and over again. It's all great music, but it was the only thing I had. Plus, aging myself, I grew up in the 70s, but my musical coming of age came in the 80s.
You're still a young man.
I grew up on 80s pop music.
Yeah.
So,
Peter Gabriel?
Gabriel was there, Sting, Police, things like that. So all of those acts are still very much, Madonna, Prince, Michael Jackson. I mean, those were all staples, right?
Old Madonna or new Madonna? I mean,
Let me tell you about Madonna.
Yes.
So I've seen a bunch of her shows recently because my girlfriend is very much into the Madonna shows. The most recent tour, I would say she was so interesting and interested in being there.
Really?
It was really great.
That's cool.
She puts on a very theatrical show, and I've stopped going to large venue shows for the most part because the acts don't fill the venue. And there are 2 examples where they actually did in the last recent years that I've been. Number 1, well, no, I'm going to have to add 3 now. God forbid. Okay, I'll add God forbid number 3.
okay.
And if you listen to
know what you're gonna
if
say.
you listen to the prior show, you know who I'm going to say. Number 1 is Madonna because
Yeah.
she is theatrical and does a hell of a theatrical show.
Yeah.
It's more than just her singing; it's the show she puts on. But number 2, and this gentleman, I was in the back row at the Verizon Center in Washington D.C., and I may as well had a front row seat. Prince.
Yeah.
Prince.
Yeah.
Pull you to, and I want to tell you the very brief story. We are in the back row. Some guy comes bounding up, and I'd say there's maybe 4 songs left in the show. This guy's really late, and he's dressed up in a sparkly purple suit.
Wow. For the occasion.
For the occasion. African American gentleman running up, and he's got something in his left hand,
Uh-oh.
and he's just like frantically getting up, and he goes, "Did he play Purple Rain? Did he play Purple Rain? Did he play Purple Rain?" And I'm like, "No.
Okay.
He didn't play it yet." And he's like, "Oh, good." Whew. And so he's in our row, but a few seats down. And Prince closes with Purple Rain. And
of course.
The arena is just awash in Purple Rain.
Bathed.
And there's like, I can't possibly describe it. It was amazing. And this guy was waiting. It feels like he was waiting years for this. The thing in his left hand was basically like a beach umbrella that was purple.
Really?
And he goes, "Phook." And he starts
Pops out.
spinning, and the thing
Purple
is
Rain.
resplendent.
Yeah.
Nice.
And Purple Rain, and this guy, that was the only reason. He missed the entire show, but got his Purple Rain, and that's all that really
Yeah.
mattered. So, I'm into that. I have a lot of nostalgia for that. I have a lot of nostalgia for 90s music. We talked about Collective Soul. We talked,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think that what really changed for me was when I went to college. I went to Syracuse University, as many of you know, because of all the damn orange around my damn website.
Yes.
By the way, this is
That's why.
this is the 44th episode, which is a big number for SU Athletics. So go Orange. And yes, gentlemen, thank you for being on a part of episode
Yeah,
44.
I feel honored.
I am being dragged kicking and screaming into a sports reference.
Sports ball.
That's
Sports
right.
ball for the win. Anyway, so when I went there, my friend's freshman year pulled me out of the morass of what my upbringing was, which was 80s pop music and classic rock. There's nothing, I don't diss those things, but what they introduced me to got me into music that I think made such a huge difference in my life. And that was, they started introducing me to accessible indie rock, college rock of the late 80s, which opened the doors to other things.
Like REM.
REM.
Yeah. REM was college rock. That's the crazy thing.
It was a genre.
Yeah.
College rock was a genre.
College rock was a huge genre. Red Hot Chili Peppers, things like that. And then a buddy of mine was into Fugazi, which is a band that you talked about, and that started to get me into things.
Fist up.
Then later, I got into this, and this was a really big deal. Husker Du.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
And Bob Mould.
Out of Minneapolis, right?
Yes, out of Minneapolis. Hello, Pedal Hub listeners.
Right.
And that was
You listen to much of Bob Mould's like solo
I
stuff?
love Bob Mould's solo stuff. And
It's
if you haven't
pretty good.
read his autobiography, it is awesome.
I would imagine.
Check it out.
Bob Mould also was in a band called Sugar.
Yes.
If you have not heard Sugar,
Well, he was Sugar.
He was
basically.
Sugar. But Sugar was that was the kind of music that really opened my eyes and really brought in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So then of course a couple of years later, a little band out of Seattle called Nirvana came along.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, that was the thing that sort of they are my favorite band and will be for probably forever. And I started thinking about what are some of the things about the music that I like, and I realized that so many bands. You look at Nirvana, you look at Bob Mould and Husker Du, and you look at Fugazi and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff where it's got. They came out of the punk movement, but they also all were influenced by pop music as well. So one of the great stories about Kurt Cobain in Nirvana was the way that he got convinced to be able to do double vocals on Nevermind was Butch Vig, who is the producer, also with Garbage, which is another one of my favorite
He
Minneapolis
also
bands.
produced a number of Sonic Youth albums.
Butch Vig is really good. I like his stuff, and I like what he did with Nevermind, even though it's not my favorite of the Nirvana albums. But he said, Kurt, the Beatles doubled their vocals, and then all of a sudden Kurt was cool with it.
Really?
So it's interesting,
Well, I guess okay.
And he was like, well, if it was good enough for those guys, I guess I can do it.
Right.
And made one of the seminal albums of all time.
Yes.
So I think that what I found is the music that resonates with me that it over the years are things that had sort of a punk sensibility or came from punk music, or artists that were punk bands but had that were cool with Pet Sounds and the Beach Boys. Not the Beach Boys I don't like, but Pet Sounds I respect a lot because of just the nature of it. You know what I mean? So I look at all of my top bands, it's like that. And then I have some outliers. And I think about the psychedelic rock, and I love the Dandy Warhols. And when I lived in Portland, they kind of came out, and I love a bunch of their early albums. I will go to battle for In Excess, and
that's right.
In Excess is probably. I actually made a list recently of my top bands. And I went all the way to number 50.
Yeah.
But let me give you my.
Did you rank them all?
I did.
That's impressive.
Number 1, Nirvana. Number 2, In Excess.
Okay.
Number 3, the Dandy Warhols. Number 4, REM. Number 4, and this is another thing that came out of college. I got into hip hop in a big way.
Really?
Good for you, man.
Tribe Called Quest. Number 4.
Oh,
There you
fucking
go.
A, man.
Thank you.
Yes.
So
I feel bad that I didn't have any hip hop represented. However, I will say this. I did not get into hip hop until well after college.
it was one of those things that I didn't. There are certain acts like NWA and some other ones like that I didn't start to appreciate until years later.
Yeah.
Tribe was that
on.
I was into what they did,
Sure.
and it was because their sound was unique. Their dialogue, their lyrics were unique, and I just loved what they did. And when they pop up every once in a while, and I'll lose my mind when I see that they were on Jimmy Fallon recently. I lost
sure.
my
For
damn
real?
mind. Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
So you look when I look at, and that was what did I go to? I went to number 5. No, number 6, Hall & Oates. To go back to my 80s, I'm a huge Hall & Oates fan. I never got to see any of their stuff when I was a kid because there was something that was wrong or something that got in the way. Finally, I went a few years ago, and I was like, I am paying as much money as I need to be as close to the stage as possible. We were in the second row, and Daryl Hall threw out a guitar pick, and I got it.
Really?
Nice.
And I lost my damn mind.
Congratulations.
I mean, it was when
They
you
are,
think about it,
they
how
are
does
my
it-
favorite. I mean, no offense here. They are my favorite band to hate.
Oh, okay.
Because they are
How
all
dare you.
over.
They're
like,
huge
they-
now.
Well,
They're huge.
Well, and their music is so radio friendly.
Yeah.
It can span just about any like genre of radio, whatever that
They
is-
get
is
played on
playing.
every station.
So yeah, they get
They
played
were
on
part-
every station.
They were part of a genre called Blue-Eyed Soul, Philly Blue-Eyed Soul.
Right,
Yes.
right.
And it just if you just tear down the music, just into its bit parts, and you look at all of the elements of it. Daryl Hall is an incredible singer, and by the way, that dude is not young anymore, but he can still hit all the high notes.
Right, right.
And he's got a great podcast called Live from Daryl's House.
Oh, really?
Highly recommend it.
That's fascinating
when
to me how
he
so many
sings-
celebrities, yeah.
Yeah, he sings with modern day artists, and
Really?
he'll sing with all sorts of Johnny. He reminds me a little bit of Johnny Cash. By the way, Johnny Cash comes in at number 7.
Oh, there you go.
About how he would pal up with other artists as well that were totally outside of the genre. So it's one of those things that like I get it, because like if you didn't grow up on it or you didn't dig it, they're everywhere, and you're just like, oh Jesus, do I have to hear Private Eyes again?
yeah.
They're watching
Yeah.
you, by the way.
right.
Let me just finish off the top 10. Number 8, Sugar and Bob Mould. I sort of put them together.
Oh,
Number
sure.
9, Ivy and Paco, which was another side project of them, and that gets back to the bass player for this is a callback.
Yeah,
from
Fountains of Wayne.
Fountains of Wayne. Yes, he is on Ivy. And number 10, Oasis. Although I will have to say,
Aaron, how do you feel about Oasis?
Oasis is an interesting thing because you get into that that whole second phase of Britpop that came in that era.
Like the 90s British invasion.
Yeah.
But I would have to say that in the
Which
moment
the
right
Stone
now,
Roses really should have had that up.
Stone Roses are on my list, but they're a little
Oh.
further down. I would also say I would probably switch them. I have my number 11 as Garbage. I would probably put Garbage at number 10 right now.
Okay.
So because of the Butch Vig stuff,
Right.
And also since I'm in Portland, I saw them live in Portland opening for Alanis
really?
Morissette. By the way, Alanis
Really?
Morissette number 12. They opened, and Sherry Manson, they play their set, and of course, typical kind of Portland audience. They're like they show up a little bit late,
Very informal.
and then so they're on their something 2.0. What was the name of that album? Something 2.0 was the name of the album.
Yeah.
And Paranoid was the big hit off of that album. And so she's looking out into the audience, and she sort of growls into the microphone. She goes, and I will not do the Scottish accent, but but it's awesome, and I'm still in love with her. She's like, hello everybody. For those of you who are coming in late, fuck you. We were garbage. We were garbage. And then they play Paranoid, and they storm off the set. I mean, but that was like their thing. Apparently,
That's fantastic.
Oh, okay.
And it was, but picture that with like a snarling Scottish accent,
Yeah.
and it was so great. I love that. Anyways. I have a really eclectic kind of mixture of interest, and I think that sort of maybe tells you a little bit more about what my thoughts are on all that. Now that we have spent 40 minutes talking about
That's right.
our musical taste, and I think that it just sets the table. Let's talk a little bit about, and let's build our playlist, but let's talk about the role. Aaron, you already talked a little bit about music and bike touring. You don't listen to your sort of like hardcore punk stuff.
I don't. Yeah, no. I don't think I can.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's my personal experience, sure, but it actually came from the advice of a tattoo artist in Hawaii.
Really?
Yes.
Is that a tattoo artist that gave you one of the ones you have?
Yeah. The
Okay.
one on my
The three bands.
right arm. Yeah, because that's like at least a 2-hour job there.
It's a lot of ink.
And
yeah.
I wanted to get it done like all at one time.
Yeah.
And so he put on Prince of all things.
Oh, really?
And this guy's you're pretty stereotypical. What am I trying to say? Like tattoo artist.
Uh-huh.
And so again, like I said before, I come to it with a number of assumptions about a person.
Like
and-
he has tattoos.
and, yeah. Well, he's got lots of tattoos
Yeah.
and piercings and whatnot. And he puts on Prince. He's like, "Hey, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to put on Prince while I do your tattoo." And I kind of gave him a little shit about it. And he's like, "I can't listen to what I normally want to listen to for a long time. Like it tires you out."
Oh. And he
And
needs to hang in there because
Yeah,
it's a big job.
Because it's a big job.
He needs
Yeah.
a little raspberry beret to make this happen.
Yeah, no, and
And people who can't see
And
Aaron's
that stuck with
tattoo,
me.
he's
They are-
got like
just 3 solid
a square
black.
foot.
Yeah.
Of black
They are
ink.
Maybe
thick
so.
bands.
Maybe
Thick
so.
bands, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that stuck with me. And coming to find, like, you know, you go on a long tour, you need something to kind of like keep you engaged. But being pounded with that 4/4 beat all the time,
Yeah.
you know, just again, it would tire me out.
It's a sprint, and you don't do a marathon
Right,
with
exactly,
a sprint.
exactly.
Okay.
I think for me, I listen, since I have kind of the eclectic kind of background. What I've done before is I have a playlist on my iPhone that is a list of all my 4 and 5 star songs. And sometimes there'll be a Coltrane song that will come on. And sometimes it'll be kind of a chill song, and sometimes it'll be I don't know if I have any Fugazi on that list. I don't know if I'm sure I do, actually. That's not true. I'm sure like the entire Copper Blue album, I'm sure, is 4 and 5 stars.
Yeah.
You know? So like I'll get a lot of kind of like, you know, harder stuff, slower stuff, and I just let the shuffle kind of do it.
Right.
But I have no problem hitting the skip button if it's just so.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
like
totally.
when I wrote here, I did this.
Yeah.
Because I did this on I did that on purpose.
It has to be right.
And a couple of Beatles songs came on, and you know what? I just wasn't in a Beatles mood.
It's not
It
a
just
Beatles
wasn't
day.
doing it.
Yeah.
It was like, Here Comes the Sun. Wasn't happening.
It's not out yet.
Yeah. And then I got In Bloom by Nirvana after that. It was perfect.
Yes.
You know?
Northwest.
So I take sort of what the universe gives me, or at least Steve Jobs' Ghost does in Shuffle. So that's sort of it. But I do have some specific songs that I like to hear in certain instances.
Before you mention that, just curious.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. But I wanted to go to you, Brock. So.
Well, no, but how many of your songs in your iTunes playlist have been starred? Have you starred your entire catalog?
I've starred most of the catalog. I've focused on 4 and 5 star songs.
Okay,
I have
I
not
see.
done much more. Like I did not bother doing anything. I have a few 3-star songs in there. I
Okay.
have nothing that's 2 and 1.
Gotcha. My brother-in-law has a system where he either has 1 star or 5 stars.
Oh, really?
And then he makes a playlist of all the songs we want to have on our iPod, basically.
That's
But,
interesting.
yeah.
Because like to me, it's like if I have a 1-star song, I don't even want it on my
Why is
phone.
it there? Yeah.
Why is
Right.
it in my collection?
Right, yeah.
Now, I will say, let me give you an example of a song that I really hate. Synchronicity, the Police album Synchronicity. Now, I don't
Okay.
hate the song as much as I used to.
Wait, the song Synchronicity?
No. The song Mother on Synchronicity.
Okay.
Where
Oh,
there's like, Mother,
yeah.
ah,
No,
it
Yeah.
doesn't.
I have that album on my iPod without that song.
Interesting.
Really?
When I was younger, back in the pre-iPod days, I was like, I wish I could make it so that my CD just skipped
Didn't
it all
play
the
that.
time because this album's so much better without. Now,
Yes.
I recognize now as an adult that like understands artistic integrity. Like that was an important song to them, and you know,
Right.
it's cool. And frankly, the song has grown on me slightly over time.
But it's tough, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
this means way more to them than it does to me.
Totally, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
on. It is on my iPod / my iPhone, but it's just not starred because I don't want it to show up in one of my 4 or 5.
Right. Like with the album from NXS, Welcome to Wherever You Are, which you recently got on vinyl.
My favorite album by them.
Yeah. Men and Women.
Yeah.
Not a great song in my estimation. It's an album closer.
It's the album
But
closer.
it's so far outside, like it's the outlier of that album. And
Yep.
so yeah, for me, I
like the
yeah.
horns in it, but I agree. I think it's the weakest song on the album.
Right.
But I will listen to it if I'm listening to the whole album because it does close the album.
Good
nicely.
thing it's at the end.
Yeah, exactly. No, good, good thing. So, music generally on tours for you. What's sort of your philosophy?
Okay. Generally, if I am riding my bike over long distances, I will either have. If I'm in an unpleasant situation like a highway that's loud and noisy, and I just have to ride like 40 miles on the shoulder of some highway with like lots of traffic, I will have podcasts in because I like listening to ideas. Generally, for me, music takes the form of I listen to this as I am either going to sleep in the tent or as I am drinking somewhere.
So you rarely ride with music.
Generally, no.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've been known to. For example, Tinted Windows, which I mentioned earlier.
Right.
On my birthday in 2009. I listened to the entire Tinted Windows album to get me over this hill that was at the very beginning of our writing day on my birthday. So,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I also listen to podcasts while I'm writing, but I do use music because sometimes I'm tired of listening to other people yak at me.
True.
And I need a
True.
little music. What about you, Aaron?
I couldn't do podcasts.
You don't do podcasts at all?
I tried to take that page from your book. And
Yeah?
it just couldn't work for me. When
It's
we were
okay.
doing Big Sur, I
Yeah.
would download a bunch of podcasts.
Of course,
for it,
the
and then-
exceptions to the rule are the Pedalshift Project and the Sprocket Podcast.
That's right. Everyone should listen to those anytime,
Anytime.
they have the chance.
They're good anytime. They are on your 5-star playlist.
That's right.
we will help your climb.
They will pedal your bicycle and shift your gears.
That was the greatest review of all time, I'm telling you. Except I recently got a guy who was a CPA in Seattle who gave a really good one.
Oh, yeah.
Recently. And
CCPA.
CCPA. And I was sitting there going, what the hell is this name? And I was like, oh, wait, SEA CPA. I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good one, too.
So long stretches, is that what we're
Yeah,
talking
well,
about?
let's start.
Okay.
We're going to build our playlist
okay.
here, everybody. So
right.
thank you for hanging in here at the 47-minute point, at least as I'm looking at the recording clock here. And so we're going to, well, what do you want to do first? Yeah, I'll let you pick, Aaron. You pick the first category.
Okay.
And so the rule here is that all of us are going to
Here,
give.
let's do this somewhat like chronologically here.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, in terms of how the ride goes.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to go around the room and we're going to build a playlist by category.
Yes.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to have that again on pedalshift.net/044. It will be a Spotify playlist to the extent that these songs are available on Spotify. If they're not, we're going to at least mention them as well and maybe give some alternatives if we know that they're not on Spotify, perhaps.
Right.
Or
Right.
I have no idea if any of mine are. So. Actually, most of mine are pretty popular stuff, but I just, every once in a while you run into a Metallica. Not recommended. I don't know
I'm
why.
gonna add a category.
Are you guys
out
into?
here.
I'm curious. Metal did not come up or anything like that. Do you have any? Do you like heavy metal or hair metal or anything like that?
I will put on like some death metal
My cousin would
for
dig you.
Well, it's for novelty's sake, really.
She's she's moving to Belgium and she's into like those like dark Euro metal bands.
Yeah, like Norwegian black metal.
Oh
and
my
stuff.
God, she's so excited. She's going to
But-
go see all these bands now.
So
I'm like,
I was in
"Great!"
I was in this somewhat like experimental punk band
Somewhat.
in Lansing, Michigan, and in Michigan, like if they can't fit you into like something,
Yeah.
like or if you don't fit into something, they will fit you into something,
Yeah.
and so. Like this band that I was in, we always got thrown in with the metal shows.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And like I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess the punks didn't really like us very much. We could never get house shows. We could get bars, no problem.
Which band was this?
Like opening up for like thrash metal, Leper Colony.
Oh, yeah. You served soup at your shows.
Yes, yeah. We would serve soup and bread at our
Okay,
shows.
hold on. Your band's name was Leper Colony and you
Yes.
serve food.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Yes.
We've gotten in trouble for that too.
Of course he did. That's very punk, though. So I love
Well,
it.
that was the thing. Yeah, that was part of the design. Was like I was going to build this like punk rock community, but the punks hated us.
And a soup house at the same time.
Right. Well, yeah, because we got to eat.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So they kept throwing us in with metal, and I hate metal bands because there's this.
What's your
there's
fa-
this thing? There's this thing with, especially like with for lack of a better term, more amateur metal bands.
Yeah.
There's this dichotomy of personality. This is way off subject, by the way.
No. It's cool.
There's this sort of duality of personality where I'll kind of do my impression of the stereotypical metal singer out of Michigan. Hey, this song, this goes out to Joe. Hey, Joe, fuck you, motherfucker.
I think we've all been to those shows.
Go fuck yourself. This next song is called Unholy. Like Wait a minute. That's not your voice.
You just heard him talking.
Yeah.
Okay. While you sort the list, I think
I'm sorry.
I want to know your least favorite. This will be a quick lightning round.
Okay.
Your least favorite genre of music, and then your favorite band within that genre. A band that you will actually listen to. Let me give you.
Oh, within. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. The third act of that I forgot to mention was Garth Brooks.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Because my girlfriend is from Oklahoma.
She's a
and
big fan.
I have been to 6
Oh my.
Garth Brooks shows.
Oh my.
I am scheduled to go to 3 more
Okay.
on the same tour. That is 9.
Okay.
So, anyways, but I will say that Garth Brooks is an incredible entertainer.
Yeah.
I'm not. I say country music is my least favorite genre.
Uh-huh.
I respect it. I've never seen a crowd of people sing songs so reverentially in my life as seeing these Garth Brooks shows. And the man is a showman and he's funny and he's good.
He knows how to do what he does.
Yeah. But my favorite country music act is Hit Jackson. He's just trying to have a good time. Not trying to take life too serious.
That's right.
This is a fictional character.
Hit Jackson from your hometown.
From your hometown, yeah. It's like, hello, Tulsa. I used to live here back in the day. Hit Jackson is my favorite country music act.
Yes.
Second favorite is Garth Brooks. I think.
Okay, there we go.
Although I've heard some Tim McGraw.
Yeah.
I think I like Tim McGraw as a person. I know very little about country music, but the first time I went to the Garth Brooks show, it was a year and a half ago. It was one of the early shows on the tour. I turned to Kimberly and I said, I may as well be on Mars.
Yeah.
Because that's how I felt. It is not part of my upbringing or anything like that, and it was really interesting. If you're into country music, I respect you, and I think it's cool. I'm just saying it's not part of my upbringing, and I think I dig the Garth Brooks catalog.
Yeah.
What's your least favorite genre of music?
I would say, like, if thrash is still a genre of music,
sure,
like just kind of like the loudest, like noisiest, least tonal music you can find. That I think is probably what I least gravitate towards. But our friend Daniel Harkins from here in Portland he has an affection for a shogun named Marcus.
Okay.
From Clutch.
Okay.
And so that's a song that I like from a genre I don't necessarily like.
Wait, the band Clutch?
Yeah.
I love that band.
So
I would imagine you do.
Aaron, I'm just going to ask you straight up, what's your favorite metal band?
Right, exactly. I was going to say, I think it's obvious.
Bon Jovi.
So my favorite, this is the thing that gets me into listening to metal. Again, like kind of for novelty's sake, but I'll listen to it for a little while and be like, this is cute. And then, turn it off. Oh, they're making voices. So the band that I listen to is actually, like, by design making fun of this stuff. It's Death Clock.
Oh yeah.
Which is an invention of Brandon Smalls.
Okay.
Brandon Small, who he's a writer and comedian. He kind of got into the public sphere with his series Home Movies as a cartoon. And I think he also worked on Dr. Katz too. But then he came up with this cartoon again called Metalocalypse. That is a metal apocalypse. And it centers around this band called Death Clock. Turns out Brendan actually plays all these instruments for like these Death Clock.
So he's actually making this music.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Spinal Tap, by the way, and I was about to be like, none more black.
No.
They're my favorite fictional band.
Thank you, Cleveland.
Yes.
Thank you for all that. Do we have our list in order?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Okay, we're going to build a playlist.
I got your morning start, your long stretches, songs for climbs, songs for bombing down hills, and then if we've got time, I added another one, songs for returning home.
Oh, songs for returning home, and then I think we're going to also possibly do a wild card, just sort of like a song you really, really like that you've played on tour, and maybe if you've got a story for any of these, we'll throw that in there. So let's open it up with Morning Start. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to take host privilege here. It is a song called "Good Morning" by the Dandy Warhols.
There you go.
It is I play it almost every single morning as I roll out of camp.
Do you?
Yes. It starts off with a long guitar, ding, 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 and then it just sort of slowly starts. And there's something about the sound of it itself that really, it's how I feel You know,
It sounds natural in the woods.
Yeah, and it works in really rural places, and it works on California Highway 1, and it works on the C&O in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it really is an awesome way to start my day. And I thank you, Courtney Taylor, for penning that one, because
Right.
that one really... That starts my day really well, and I love how it comes to a crescendo and it gets me going. And by the end of that song, I'm going.
Yeah.
And I love it. So, anyways, that's how I start my day.
Totally. Yeah. And that is a great album. I was listening to it earlier today, actually. The Andy Warhol's Come Down, I
Yes,
think.
Come
And
Down.
yeah, it's there's something about that, like you were saying, like they are all songs that start and continue to build. They're like the whole album is a slow burn. So,
Yes,
yeah.
totally agree.
Morning, waking up for me. Like I said, I don't listen to a lot of music, so this is more thematic. But if I needed a song to help me wake up, I would say "Let's Go" by the Cars.
Oh, nice.
Because it's about going, because eventually you have to leave your campsite, and there is nothing more compelling to me than the sound of that song. Like, that song has all the drive and energy that I appreciate of a song that's supposed to motivate you towards something. So yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I'm going to surprise.
By the way, we're a reminder, everybody, we're building a playlist out of this. It'll be on pedalshift.net/044.
I'm going to surprise you all here. So the song I actually would love to generally wake up to. Oh, wait, I forgot to write yours down. Sorry, Brock.
Oh, it's okay.
Give it to me again.
Let's Go by the Cars.
All right. So I see it. There's two different ways to answer this.
And more than one answer is good, too, because we can build more of a playlist.
So waking up, there is this band from England called The Magic Numbers. And it's totally outside of what I have said I listen to.
No, but that's good, yeah.
Kind of like you don't drink coffee all day.
Right. But it's a great like morning song. So there's one of their songs off their first album is called Mornings 11. I don't have that, unfortunately, so I'll give you as close of approximation to that as possible. And it's the first song off their second album. All right, so that's pretty much how the other song also starts.
I like that. It's got that gives a good idea of how that will sort of it slowly builds. Again, it gets back into the whole idea of the slow build,
Right.
And it's not like, you know, it's not Dave Grohl jamming his drumsticks down your ears, you know, to start your morning. It's sort of like a ding. Good morning.
So there's there's the like wake up, good morning, and then like I'm done. I'm like ready to head out, and so that. Then I start
there
doing
you go.
something like
Okay,
that,
yeah.
Which is Japandroids.
Oh yeah,
The Boys Are Leaving Town.
right.
Nice.
Which is accurate if you're on tour.
So
ladies.
It's even on the nose with we're leaving town.
Yes,
that's cool.
It's both thematically apropos.
I have a few
and
songs that are
musically
like that
apropos.
for this. Well, I mean, good morning be
It's
a little
very
more,
literal,
Yeah,
yes.
it's
Yes.
A lot of them are like that, and sometimes I find lyrically the songs aren't necessarily as on the nose as the title is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, good morning is actually, you know,
That does make sense.
It does make sense, and it works. And the first words are, "It's a good
Good morning. Yeah.
It's good stuff. Good stuff. Awesome. I think that these are all great ways to start your morning. What's our next category there?
Long stretches.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes.
This is, I mean, you can do a lot with this. These are sort of, my thought on this is, you know, sort of what's the feeling about being there? And I think about, there's certain parts of the California coast in particular that I think about. Near Gualala, California is what I was thinking.
Gualala.
Gualala, Gualala.
The unexpected G.
Yes, the unexpected
The
and silent G.
non-phonetic G in English.
There's this is where, for long stretches, I tend to get more into sort of your countrified pop.
Oh, sure.
And that's where I pull out my John Cougar Mellencamp. Lonely Old Night.
Right.
It's a lonely old night. You know that song? That's one of the ones that I would use for something like that.
Really?
It's something that would give a little bit more. There's a little bit more of a driving thing to it. I've also gotten into, if you want to go more electronica, Ghosts.
Ghost.
I meant Ghosts is in
The
plural.
band Ghost?
No, is the name of the song, and I'm going to have to. Oh, Dirty Vegas is the name of that song.
Oh,
And that's
okay.
much more of an electronica song.
Not to be confused with the NXS song of the same title.
Correct.
But yes.
Very different song. That one was kind of a big hit back in late 90s, early O's, if I'm mistaken. So Dirty Vegas, Ghosts.
Okay.
So I have a lot of different types of songs that fit the need, but they're those songs that sort of fill the space that you're in.
Yeah.
And you're that feeling that you're alone on the road. Maybe there's a few cars, but these are the songs that are sort of like maybe grounding you a little bit.
Sure. Kind of
and-
tying you to reality.
and filling the space. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Brock, what do you got?
Okay. So let me also I'll just open a beer from the Beer Mongers at Southeast
Is that
Division
on
in 12.
Southeastern Division in 12?
Yes. So a lot of the thing that motivates me is knowing that at the end of the day, when I'm done riding like 60 or 70 miles or however long the day is, that there will be a bar in the town I'm going to that I can drink at. And I was not bicycling when I first heard this song, but I was in a buffet barbecue restaurant in South Carolina on a road trip about 3 years ago. And Dierks Bentley's Tip It On Back is a song about drinking and smoking in a small town bar. As the town is like kind of shutting down and selling off assets, and like, pretty soon this town's not going to be here anymore. But tonight we can rule this town because we're here at this bar, and that's kind of I love that song for that. So yeah,
Solid.
that's me.
I always go with something. I'm thinking something a little bit more mellowed out.
Sometimes that works, doesn't it?
I name
Yeah.
checked. Yeah, I name checked My Bloody Valentine.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
Like you're going to be here for a while, so
Yeah,
like
yeah,
an anesthetizing noise rock sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean something to still keep the mind engaged. Something interesting. I name checked John Coltrane as well.
Oh yeah. Anything off of Blue Train or Love Supreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Giant Steps is a really good album.
Absolutely.
Oh, Love Supreme. Yeah, you're right. No, I'm changing my answer. You're like Love Supreme. You're
Supreme.
right.
Yeah.
I love Supreme. Yeah.
Yeah. Something along those lines. Something to keep the mind engaged, but still, like, again, not beating me over the head with like some overdriven guitars or some kind of hard beat. Like, that's something for another time.
Coltrane is a big companion for me on tour, and for those of you who are listening to this and going, "Oh my God, all this punk music and stuff," and your kids with your loud music,
Yeah.
like
Your tight pants.
I'm into the in addition to wearing my tight pants, I like my John Coltrane.
All the kids are in John Coltrane. Yeah.
While we're in sort of the down tempo mode, I'm going to name check a band I talked about a little bit earlier to borrow a phrase from you, Aaron. Ivy. There's a
Yes.
song that they do called 4 in the Morning. They're a band out of New York. Woman, they haven't done an album in years. I'm afraid that they no longer are making music. But off of In the Clear, there's a song called 4 in the Morning.
Ooh.
Now, that is a song that's great for nights in particular.
Yeah.
So if you're in this is a little bit different than what we talked about, sort of in the wide open stretches, but sort of the down tempo feeling kind of it really. It's atmospheric,
Right,
And it's
right.
real. It's Ivy is a band that I adore, and I have great stories about seeing them in New York.
And that you mentioned the Fountains of Wayne connection.
And the Fountains of Wayne connection, and Tahiti 80 is another band that they're sort of affiliated with. They're all into that whole area.
Nice, nice.
If you're into My Bloody Valentine, you would dig Ivy.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a band that I would recommend kind of checking out.
Is it
Especially
swirling?
Yeah, very. They were sort of in that. They started off in the mid '90s and went into probably the mid '00s, and maybe even a little bit later.
Be like in the shoegazer style.
Yeah,
era.
they're a band that I sort of really get behind a lot, and I've always liked their stuff, and I think that they fit in this. If you need something that sort of fills the space, but it's a lot more chill and a little more down tempo, they have a lot of really good stuff. A side project by the husband and wife team, not the guy from Fountains of Wayne, but the husband and wife who are in Ivy. They did a couple of albums with a project called Paco or Paco. I think it's Paco.
Okay.
And that really fills in that genre. It's a lot more down tempo. They have some really cool stuff. So I highly recommend them.
Nice.
We have I already love this playlist, by the way. So for those of you who are listening, we're building something good here. So Aaron, what's our next on our list? Here?
Songs for climbs.
Oh
yeah.
Good Lord. ladies and gentlemen, let me bring back the late departed Kurt Cobain, and let me bring in anything off of In Utero, but in particular, Frances Farmer will have her revenge on Seattle. That is a song that will climb you up every effing hill you will ever be on.
Nice.
I also will go with...
Forgive me if I misspell this, but
Frances Farmer will have her revenge.
Farmer.
Yes. I think another choice. I tend to, and I have made no secret of this. I use Nirvana for climbing hills. I also like pretty much anything that is a little more speedy off of the first album, which is Bleach. I think Love Buzz is really good. That's got a little bit of a pop kind of thing to it. It's got a great bass line to it. I think anything off of that first Bleach album, but Nirvana is your friend going up hills. Yes.
And you need something kind of like your energy is probably going to be low, and you need something high energy to kind of engage your legs.
Rhythmic. And you said something. You said 4/4 beat, and I think that grabbing something off of a punk album is really helpful for me because you're spinning in a low gear usually,
right?
And it's kind of nice because I find that either I go too slow because it's just sort of spinning and I'm just crawling and I need a little bit more, or I'm going too fast and I need that beat to sort of kind of bring me
something
sort of a
motivating.
cadence.
Yeah, I need something to sort of work with. And I think with climbing, music is probably your biggest friend more than anything else.
Right.
Until, of course, we bombed down hills, in which case I got some awesome stuff. So anyways.
Yeah. So there was that Tinted Windows album that got me up that enormous hill in Northern California on my birthday.
I am so checking out Tinted Windows.
Oh, yeah.
Bop.
It's
despite bop, I'm in it.
It's super poppy and super great.
Okay, I'm in.
It's never been on the radio as far as I know. So, I mean, who knows?
We'll find it.
So it's got that going for it.
Yeah, exactly. It's underground. It's indie. No, but as far as climbing hills, this is again with my literalism. Mountain Man from the Crash Kings.
Oh, nice. I like that.
Or I guess it's just Crash Kings without the definite article. But they're a band out of Los Angeles that has...
A band that can keep from using the definite article is a good band.
Yeah. They are a drummer, a bassist, and a keyboardist, a guy who plays piano and a clavinet, which is basically an electric guitar, but a keyboard.
And a keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have their big breakout single was Mountain Man. So again, literally going up a mountain. This song has a great beat. It's also about kind of making it to the top of a mountain. I think it's a song about a hike. So it's a great song. I like it a lot.
Awesome.
Working Full Time by the Constantines.
The Constantines. I dig that. That's good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Actually, just about anything off of their last 3 albums. I would be great, but that song Working Full Time, put that on as soon as I see that hill coming, because that's just gonna I would even maybe have it on repeat for a little while.
Nice,
because there's something about that song, either lyrically or within the music, that is pretty motivating to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Not Working for a Living by Huey Lewis and the News, but again, Working Full Time by the Constantines. These are very different songs.
I did ask Aaron, hey, should I know the Constantines from something? And you were like, you should know the Constantines.
You should know the Constantines
Not
from
like
anything.
You heard them from something, but you should know about them because they're great.
I was blasting them when you guys came home from that camping trip. I was blasting them in the house.
Right.
Just doing stuff.
Quick sidebar question before we go into the next category. Are you guys earbuds or non-earbuds?
Oh.
I think you talked a little bit about on the show before.
We should maybe talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, a little sidebar. I am fully okay with 2 earbuds in. And the reason why is I find myself more distracted mentally if I only have 1 earbud in.
Interesting.
I find that I'm more aware.
You owe me a Coke.
Interesting. I'm more aware. I'm more aware when I'm because it feels like it's off center for me.
So to clarify, are you into the Apple ear perch earbuds or the ear canal penetrating vacuum sealed earbuds?
I do not endorse the full immersion into the music. I do like having a little bit of air getting in there.
So the Apple that kind of perches near your ear canal without sealing it off to the outside world.
Seal.
Because there's a difference in how those change the way you perceive the world.
And that's what I tend to use. Also, they tend to be able to put up with a little bit of moisture and being in your ears that long as well.
Okay.
I am, however, considering for the California tour of bringing a Bluetooth speaker with me in addition to or as a supplement. to all of this. But I'm curious what you guys think.
Right. Aaron?
I highly recommend Bluetooth speakers for city riding.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. One, you can match your music to your environment
Yep.
a little bit easier. And I don't know, part of me feels like I'm doing a public service by
Spreading the good cheer.
Yeah. I'm like, sharing my vibes with everybody. It's also like kind of a simple way to let everyone know you're approaching.
Yes.
True.
That said, there's also like a charge that you got to maintain. So,
Right.
I'm pretty lazy about maintaining that charge. And
Earbuds last
and
longer.
So, yep.
Yeah.
Earbuds are a good lazy man solution to that. And
Yeah.
I will leave the one ear open.
You go
Just,
with one.
Yeah,
button.
I just go with one. And I've switched my iPod to mono. So.
Okay.
Oh,
So you get the
interesting.
full,
Yeah, okay, cool.
both speakers, both stereo sides in one ear.
Yeah. It's bothered me enough on a few songs where like
Yeah.
I know I'm missing something out of here.
That makes sense.
And there's times, Wilco is a great example where like all of one thing is happening on one side and it just happens to not be the side that's plugged into my ear.
I do a podcast that mixed that way one time. One voice on one side, one voice on the other. It's a bad way to mix a podcast. Podcast should be mono.
Yep.
But yeah, for me, if it's a Pedalpalooza ride, the biggest speakers you can get.
Oh, yes, that's
hell
right. Yeah.
But
Hell yeah.
just for personal use, a lot of the podcasts I listen to are profane, and so I don't feel good about blasting that into the environment around me. So I would say one ear canal penetrating and sealing earbud in my right ear.
And for touring specifically, earbud. Like there's no reason you need to be blasting your music out into the nature.
That's also why I feel that it's my ride, not necessarily, or it's my music, not necessarily other people's music, especially if there's other people around. And the other thing is that sometimes I use it to block out. You talked about being on a highway.
Yeah.
Sometimes I use it to protect my ears a little bit from the shung, shung.
I know
shung.
people who ride with earplugs for that reason.
The Doppler effect.
Yep.
Yeah. And I still hear everything. I really do. I also have a mirror as well, so I'm aware of what's going on.
Sure.
So.
Sure. That
For
makes
all of
sense
you
to
people
me.
who are now shaking your fist
Well-
going, you're the least safe
Well,
bicyclist in the world.
and here's the thing. These are opinions here.
Yes.
These are what
To
we do.
each
I will
their
not
own.
prescribe my method to anybody.
Yes.
I'm with
You
you.
do what's best for you.
Indeed. After that little bit of soliloquy, what's next on our...
Yeah, songs for bombing downhill.
Okay, I got two here.
Okay.
I got one that nobody's ever heard of, and I got one that would probably be familiar with at least one person in this room. The first one by the Dandy Warhols.
Ooh.
Not If You Were the Last Junkie on Earth, which is one of my
It's a good
favorite.
song.
And it is great for going down hills, and it's amazing. The
Yeah.
other one is by a band that I champion, and I don't know if they're around anymore, but this is a band out of California called Erlamart. It's a song called We Drink on the Job, and I'm going to play a
Yeah,
little bit of here.
run that through there.
That's a nice tone.
Very kind of early, kind of like mid-90s, early O's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Highly recommended. Erlamart. They're really good. So.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Bombing down hills.
What was the name of that tune? By the way?
We Drink on the Job.
Yeah.
Not recommended, but great song.
Songs that I think are sonically good for bombing down hills. There's a band called The Heavenly States, a song called The Specialist. It's not on Spotify as far as I can tell, but you can download it from the KEXP website out of Seattle. It's a radio station. They have a Song of the Day podcast. So The Heavenly
Seattle's
States,
cool.
The Specialist. That song just sounds like bombing downhill. Another one is Baby Fat by the Red Tinbacher's Funkestra. And that is another song that just sounds like going downhill.
And Mbop by
Yeah, of course.
Aaron, what do you got?
Yeah, so here's where I would pull out like some of the more hardcore
Yeah,
stuff.
this is where your Fugazi's coming out.
Here's where like Fugazi, but actually, I would put out something like either the Hot Snakes or oh shoot, I was really wanting to find it here. Oh yeah, so there's this band. I think they're out of San Fran.
Yeah.
They were at least on Lookout Records for a short period, which
Is a
was
pretty
kind
good
of
indicator, right?
Yeah, kind of a San Fran
Bay Area at least,
thing.
right?
They're called Avail. Oh no, what am I thinking? They're out of Virginia. Anyways,
Out of the DC scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. The Fugazi kind of
well,
family.
it's post all of that,
Yeah.
but they're out of Richmond actually. They named
There's a
Richmond
lot of stuff going out of Richmond, I hear. Yeah.
But I'm looking for the right song here. There it is. Just something. It's called Simple Song.
Nice. This seems like every BMX video I've ever seen. You know, right?
Well, yeah, it's got that feel.
Yeah,
right?
the X Games feel.
But anyways,
what's the name of this band? I need this.
Avail.
Avail. I'm in.
Yeah, 1996. So
Yeah. That does sound mid 90s. That's great. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how music will bring you back, and you're just sort of like, oh wow. Because in 1996, I was, let's see, that was my third year of law school. So I was still, in my whippersnapper 20s and all that kind of stuff, and I was still listening to that kind of stuff a lot, and feeling like I was ready to go take on the world. 96 was the year I moved to Portland, Oregon.
nice.
Yes, the land of sunshine and bunnies.
I would also put "Do You Like Me" by Fugazi, which has got it's just
Yes.
yeah, just
Hell
this
yes.
really good beat.
Yes.
The way the guitars play off each other, like very energetic.
One song that we haven't had a lot of hip hop in this list, and a song
Please
that I'm
help me.
gonna throw in here for Downhill, and I think it fits in so many places because it's a very travel-y song because it lists a lot of cities. Is by Tribe Called Quest. It's called Award Tour.
Nice.
And I like that as sort of that may be a good for the wild card round when we do it, but I think it does work for downhills as well. I certainly have used it. It's got this great little beat to it, and it's one of my favorites by them. It's off of my favorite album by them, Midnight Marauders, which is just amazing.
Nice.
Amazing. If you have been reluctant to embrace the hip and the hop, may I
The hippity hop?
May I recommend as an entry level band, Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
What do you think, Aaron? I mean,
no. Tribe is great. Jurassic 5.
Jurassic 5 is another
Fucking
great
Jurassic
Yeah,
5.
yeah.
Yeah.
Talib Kweli, maybe?
Talib and Common.
Yep,
and
Common for sure.
Was it? Who was
Black
it?
Star?
I was gonna say yes. Who was it? Was that Talib
That was
and
Talib
Mos Def?
Mos Def, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Black.
I think
Star
any
was
of these
great.
if you've been sort of like, look.
Oh shit.
Oh, okay.
The
Here we
food. The food. I'm putting that on there.
go. Okay.
Yeah.
Hip hop's starting to make
So
a cut. Yeah.
yeah. It was on a Common album, but it actually has Kanye guesting
Yeah.
on that. The food. Yeah, y'all got to listen to it.
Yeah. Yep.
All right.
Early Kanye I'm in on, so Brock, you're not a hip hop aficionado.
I enjoy hip hop.
Do you have a favorite act or two?
Let's see here.
Go ahead. Say it. I won't make fun of you, I promise.
Will
honestly,
Smith, DJ Jazzy Jeff.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Everything from Getting Jiggy With It to Miami to Men in Black.
That was not DJ Jazzy Jeff.
No, that was Fresh. That,
That was
all.
Fresh Prince
that was all
on
Will
his
Smith.
own.
That was Will Smith.
That was
solo.
that was without jazz.
That's true. Yeah.
So you're
But
Will
anyways,
Smith.
Will
right,
Smith.
but also parents don't understand.
Well,
And,
that was
uh,
the
was
OG.
DJ
Right,
Jazzy
right. All of the both iterations.
So you're
of,
into Positive K, like what was Positive K song? You remember this one? Oh God, what was I know I have it.
I gotta look it. Oh,
Early
you got
Positive
it?
K did. Oh, I Got a Man. You remember that one?
Oh, what your man got to do with
What's your
me?
man got to do with me?
I got a man.
I'm not
I ain't trying to hit that scene.
Right.
Oh,
I got to
man.
say, old school hip hop is generally like I enjoy that more than new school hip hop.
I am very much in the same realm. Although every once in a while, I heard a relatively new artist out of Chicago called Dem Planets,
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna have to pull it up because it's in this whole all the acts
Yeah.
that we just mentioned, Aaron.
Yeah.
It's totally in that same
Oh,
vibe.
and I'm putting up Bombs Over Baghdad, by the way.
Oh,
There you go.
There you go. That's for a downhill song.
Yep.
Well, and also, what is it? People Under the Stairs is a current hip hop act from the Seattle area, I think. That's all right.
And the Seattle scene is kind of interesting for hip hop.
Yeah.
They've spawned a lot of stuff. By the way, I'm wrong on Dem Planets. It's Dem Atlas.
Okay.
And this is a track called All We Got.
Okay.
This I think is
Put that on there.
There we go. Shit.
explicit
Yeah,
tag.
yeah. Perfect. I never understood a lot, cause I didn't need a lot, have a lot. So I never cared a lot. Stumbled through a black hole and ended up in Camelot with JFK.
So very similar.
Right.
It seemed perfect
And then that Hammond organ comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a real fan, and it's got a really good kind of poppy hook that I'm sure that.
So this is
Yeah.
totally off subject, but have you
ASCAP would kill us
have you
for.
guys seen the movie Dope yet?
I
I've seen
haven't.
half of it on an airplane.
Y'all gotta see
Yeah,
it.
and then I
Y'all gotta
landed
see
in
it.
San Francisco before I was able to finish it.
Oh, okay.
Sadly.
Those short flights from here to San Francisco are not movie length flights.
know.
Right? Yeah. Aaron, what's left on our list here?
So last one, songs for returning home.
Oh wow. Okay, so this was not on my original list, so I got to think.
No,
about
I
this
added
one.
this.
Yeah, no, and I think this is a great one,
Right.
Because I think heading home is, and you guys have talked about it on the show. I've talked about it on my show. That it's tricky, the transition.
It can be
It can be one of the
disorienting.
hardest things.
Because sometimes you're excited to come home because you're seeing people that you haven't seen in a while. And
Right.
sometimes you're sort of dreading coming home because you're like, this chore is over. So,
Which neighborhood did they gentrify this time?
yeah, right, yeah. What do we got? Is that Pretenders? No.
It's modern Pretenders, maybe. That's a good parallel, actually.
It's interesting.
Get a dressmaker shop in Greece.
That is Feist.
Oh, I
yeah,
love
yeah.
Feist.
There we go.
It's cool to love your family.
Nice.
That's that's a really interesting one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to noodle on that. I don't know if you got anything.
That's
Rod.
your returning home song?
Yep.
Nice. Loretta Lynn and Jack White collaborated on a track called Portland, Oregon, which is
yeah.
about getting drunk in Portland, Oregon, which is a fitting way to return to Portland, Oregon,
Yes.
especially at the beer mongers at Southeast Division and 12.
Oh boy, I have a lot of possibilities for this. I think I'm going to go with. You can tell I'm sort of I had a good idea in here and then I didn't.
I know how that goes.
I think that this is a song that I guess it's more kind of a personal thing.
Mm-hmm.
It goes back again. The band Ivy. This album came at a really weird time in my life, and I always thought that there's a song called "Worry About You," and it's just it's one of those songs that's it's got a little bit of a melancholy thing going on. I think I will play this just because I think. Because when I think about coming home, it tends to have kind of a mixed vibe. I'm coming back to somebody who I haven't seen in a while.
Okay.
But I'm also ending a tour.
Baby, don't be long. I worry about you while you're gone.
It's a good big beat.
So
Ivy has a lot of that kind of stuff
Yeah.
going
Yeah.
on. And it also just, I picked that song for a variety of reasons. I think it's a beautiful song, and it gets bigger later as it goes, but you're right. It does have that sort of big beat. But that album in particular, there's a lot of like sort of mixed things going on. And when I first, that album first came into my life, there was a lot of weird stuff going on in my life. And so when there's sort of mixed things happening, I go to that. So I don't know if you guys have albums that are like that, but that's sort of where I go sometimes when I'm maybe a little ambivalent about what's going on.
Rainy Day album.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
Midnight Sun is a rainy day
Yeah.
album. Yes, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Let's. Should we do a round of wild card? Or
Wild
do we need
cards.
Okay. Let's do some wild cards.
I'm
here.
in.
Okay. Let's. I think I'm going to have to find a good wild card. Brock, it seems like you're like boom. Go.
Oh, I'm ready.
You're ready for a wild card? Okay. Do
All
it.
right, so everybody's
Fire
been
it up.
holding their phones up to microphones, so I'm about to do the same.
Okay.
I think this is a way to get around the copyright law. By
No,
the way.
it's really not. But since we're commentating on these songs, I think we're all right.
Oh
It's
yeah,
for educational purposes.
purposes.
Yes. So there's a band out of Seattle called Explone. It's the past tense of explain in Old English. They had an album that did not release as yet. It's still on the way out, I think. But a great song. It was I suppose the lead single back when I was touring through Washington State when it was on fire. And my wild card is songs to dance around the picnic table to when you're slightly drunk at the end of the day, which is how I like to spend.
Oh, I like
many
that.
of
You're
my-
adding a category too.
Oh,
Okay,
that's
good.
my wild card.
Okay,
It's
I like
yeah,
that. I like
yeah.
that. So we need a category and your wild card song.
Right. So the Ballad of Murtzuphlus, which is it's a obscure historical reference, but this song rocks maybe more than any other song I can think of.
Say it again.
The Ballad of Murtzuphlus.
Sounds like that band in Lansing you were talking about. Oh no, this is good. I got it.
It kind of has those guitars have a Queens of the Stone Age sound to it.
Yeah, kind
Yeah.
of a classic rock but modern sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So this song, hands down, best to sing along with when you've had a Four Loko
Oh, I
and
bet.
you're in Chehalis camping in the hiker-biker site. That's what I did.
That's a combination of things that you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's there.
And that's available for free from xblown.com, I think, or it was the song of the day on KEXP back in the day. So do a search with your favorite search engine.
I like that. I like that.
Also, same dance session was also the Black Keys, Lonely Boy, and Gold on the Ceiling. Two
yeah.
great songs.
My very good friend of mine,
Yeah.
who I've podcasted with on many occasion on other shows, he is high school friends with the Black Keys.
Are
So
you serious?
I got to go backstage and hang out with my buddy and his high school friends, the Black Keys, on an occasion
Nice.
and drink beers with them. And they are the coolest dudes ever from Akron, Ohio.
That's great. Yeah.
Super cool guys. So if you're into their music, know that they are awesome people as well.
Yeah,
So
and if you're traveling on a bike tour and your wife goes to or your partner, your traveling partner goes to the shower and you're alone in the campsite, you might as well drink and dance to a song. Or two.
Indeed.
That's what I
I'm
did.
with ya.
No
I'm
one
with
was
ya.
there to see me. No one was there to make fun of me. I did it.
All right. Do you have one yet?
I'm almost there. I'm almost
Okay.
there.
I will go then. And this is songs to enter a strange town.
Ooh.
Do you have a certain strange town in mind?
Just like, I'm out in the country and I'm coming up to this town and I'm like, I don't know if they, have seen
A touring
brown
bicyclist.
person or,
Oh.
or,
We went slightly different ways
or a
with that.
touring bike.
Okay, yeah.
Especially
How
not a
much
brown
does it
person.
weigh?
Yeah.
How far have you come?
And so this is well, you might recognize it from a Wes Anderson film.
Don't fear the Reaper. Blue Oyster Cult.
Nope.
Fellas, I have a fever, and it can only be cured by one thing.
This song sounds like a certain kind of diorama.
This song really could use cowbell,
It's not that song.
but it sounds like it.
So what song is this?
Wait for the hook. Wow, they sure take their time.
I
getting
think
to it.
this is the hook.
ASCAP is so gonna kill me.
Yeah, maybe I should quit. So that
You can
was
listen for the hook on your own.
that. So it comes in. There's some pretty good synth work.
I've heard that ASCAP only
happening.
charges for the hook.
Oh.
They only charge for the hook, and we think that it's a wonderful song. And I criticized it for sounding too much like Blue Oyster Cult. So
There we
There you
go.
go.
Criticism.
Uh,
Education.
And I
That is-
also said it could use more cowbell.
That
Yes.
is Gut Feeling by Devo.
Oh, Devo! Of course, it's Devo. God, I apologize.
is water?
My bad,
Whenever
Devo.
you are finding yourself in an alien landscape, be it a town
That's a
or
desert
otherwise,
song, isn't it?
Devo
Rolling
is
through-
the way
yeah.
to go.
God,
Yes.
rolling through Eastern Oregon. Can you imagine playing that?
Seriously.
Oh my God, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a song because my battery just almost freaked out on me.
Uh-oh.
Thumbprints. Try again. All right, we'll try the code. Thanks, Steve Jobs.
This is a long podcast.
This is the longest podcast ever. Okay, I've got a song when you're overlooking some really big vista. It's a song called Hoover Dam by Sugar.
Ooh.
It has a really good beginning, which we'll only do the beginning of. And the first lyrics are very much on the nose, so we got to do it. Okay, Bob, any second now. Bob Mold, paging Bob Mold. I forgot how long this was.
Yeah, that happened to me.
I love Bob Mold.
This is a great album.
Big influence on Explode, by the way.
Bob Mould is a musical legend, and I mean, just start with Husker Du through his solos, his initial solo stuff, then Sugar, and then his later solo stuff, and then he got into electronica music, and he did all sorts of crazy stuff. I really highly recommend, if you haven't read, if you dig Bob Mould or you're interested in him and his path. I mean, he was a quasi out man in the punk scene, and that was a thing back in the 80s.
A surprisingly not quite as liberal as they promoted kind of scene.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, just learning his whole path in his life through music and through his dealing with the public face to his sexuality and all of that. He is a really cool dude, and he makes great music, and he
continues to make great music.
And he continues to make great stuff. And I saw him most recently at the 930 Club in DC. He lived in DC for a time, and so he would come and when he was in electronic music, and so he would do DJ nights a lot.
Oh, cool.
Okay,
which was really interesting.
Yeah.
But then he plugged back in, and then he did a tour with not Sugar, but he did Copper Blue from top to bottom, which is this song is on that album, and it was one of the great shows that I've seen in probably the last 5 years or so, and it was really great. So yes.
So repeat the category.
The category was songs to see from vistas looking down on shit, and that is Hoover Dam by Sugar.
That's awesome.
Bob Mould. So
nice.
Guys, this was a long podcast. Everybody listening, thank you so much for hanging in
there.
You
got some work ahead of you for editing.
I've got a Spotify playlist that's going to be coming out, so please check that out at pedalshift.net/044. Any last thoughts on music and bicycle touring?
Don't let anybody give you shit for music you like.
Bop. And
I can't say anymore. I can't add anything to that.
Don't listen to recorded music, says Aaron Flores.
And if you can hang into an hour and a half long version of the Pedal Shift Project, please, if you haven't, go listen to the Sprocket Podcast number 286.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever. All episodes of the 280s.
You know what? 286.
That's
Just
right.
go listen to every episode of the damn thing. It's the greatest podcast from Portland.
See you in 2 years.
See you in 2 years. Yeah. Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net. Lots of great content. You can hear the Pedalshift Project through iTunes or your favorite podcast aggregator. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his debut album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Habitat, wherever cool music is available.